Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we continue our Ayumi Hamasaki music marathon with my review of her 11th full album, Rock and Roll Circus. Before we get started, I want to remind you that this is simply my opinion on the album, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more. Rock and Roll Circus came out in early 2010, so about 9 years from now already, and honestly I'm gonna say it straight away, it might be one of my least favorite albums from her at the time. 2010 really was the year where I started not to pay attention to her music as much, even to the point of forgetting this album completely for a long time until I had to review it. But let's start with the positives first. The album has some good songs here and there, and the ones that really work are actually the ones that dare to be a bit different from the usual sound in her discography. For example, Don't Look Back, Lady Dynamite, Countdown. Although for Countdown it does sound pretty usual, but I just like how it is a rock song that doesn't overdo it in its instrumental, and the ballad Last Link is also very refreshing in its melody. And even Ballad, which is a song that does use the mix of traditional and modern pop ballad elements, I do like how she always manages to make these songs work no matter what, and even though we've kind of heard that before in her discography, I think it works once again really well here. And finally, another song that I really like is Sexy Little Things, because it's so weird and fresh in her discography that I have to note that it's just nice to have something that really feels very different from anything else she had done at the time. Now, on to the not so great stuff on this album. The flow, it really has a problem with how coherent it is sound-wise. Like, you start with a way too long intro, then you get to some rock songs like Microphone, which I find to be overdoing it on the dramatic atmosphere too much, and it really becomes repetitive and very old super fast. Then you get Countdown, which I talked about earlier, which I actually like. And then the album cuts to 3 ballads back to back, and that's just the start of the album. And already it slows down everything, and I don't know, for me at that point I was like already losing interest. But thankfully, like I said, 2 out of 3 of those ballads are actually really good. Although I was never a fan of the single Sunset Sunrise. And honestly, Sunset sounds so dated and boring to me, I skip it all the time because I don't have 5 minutes of my life to give it to it anymore. And this is also where, speaking of ballads, that I realized that 5 ballads on the album is way too much, because the moment Meaning of Love and You Were happen on the album, I'm just not there anymore. Like, the album lost me the moment Sunrise Love Is All started playing, so don't expect me to keep up after this one, and really this album goes on and on for way too long. It is, after all, over 1 hour and almost 5 minutes, and that's, for me, is not good, because especially when more than half of the songs are not that interesting. And honestly, don't even get me started on the interludes on this one, because they are not good. And it's like they almost don't matter, especially in terms of transition between songs. So there's nothing to be excited about on this album, and I think that's what really bothers me about it. There's like 3 songs that are kind of alright, and I can listen to them, but I'm not like listening to them constantly because I genuinely forgot about them until I went back to listening to it a couple times. And yeah, this album is dull, it's long. I wish you would have cut some songs out. Like, I feel like there's no shame in having an album with 11 to 12, maybe even 13 songs. I think it's kind of alright. But going beyond, if you had too many ballads, too many filler songs, it just becomes very boring very quick. And overall, this album, like I said, is not great. I mean, it does have a few good songs, but the rest is so bland and forgettable that I just can't get into it, because it really lacks direction, and it feels more like an album where she tried to experiment And when she did, actually, she does it really well, but there's also like this repetitive cycle of these type of songs that are not good compared to what she used to do before, even though it's the same style with few changes here and there, you know. I guess she went with, if it's not broke, there's no need to fixing it, but it's starting to show that it's breaking, and especially our usual formula that used to be great in the early albums, this time just doesn't feel exciting anymore, and that's why I give this album 2 stars. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to tell me what you think of the album down below, and I'll see you next week for my review of Love Songs.